if you guys haven't been reading your emails, there was a zoning review board, and they were looking at banning self-storage on the Beltline. So we fortunately learned of this through John Arnold. John is here, one of our board members. Thank you, John. And we quickly mobilized the board and other members to get out there and voice our protest against banning of self-storage. And Scott Zucker wrote a wonderful letter. We involved the national Tim Dietz's group, and they wrote a wonderful letter to protest the banning of self-storage. And basically what it was one of the councilman members decided self-storage should not be on the Beltline. They didn't really give a good reason, except that they felt it should not be on the Beltline. So we quickly had a few conference calls and showed up on Thursday to voice our protest. And Scott got up there and did a fabulous job as the attorney he is. Thank you, Scott. I followed as the Georgia Self-Storage President, representing all of us. And then Public Storage Attorney was there as well. And then finally, our own Sarah Beth, I think, had the most poignant statement in that when Sarah Beth was the manager of the city storage, Glenn McCoacher's old facility, down on the Beltline, Sarah Beth actually stood out on the Beltline handing water. So it was very hard for the review board to accept the proposal to reject self-storage as not being fit for the community. So a round of applause to all of the members. This is truly what the association is for, is just to make sure that a voice is out there for self-storage owners and everybody in the industry. And we've never had to do something like this before, but it was nice to see how successful we were. It was not anticipated. In fact, I think Scott and I were still pinching ourselves in shock that we actually got them to deny approval, and that will go to the City Council now. So the next meeting that may require some people will not be till July, but we hope to know before then if we're going to have to voice our opinions again. So please just keep an eye out for emails, because that's how we'll be contacting everybody if we do need your support in reaching out to our council people. And if anybody has any questions, ask Scott, because he really knows it better than I do, but you can ask me too.
So what will the meeting on July 3rd be about?
So first of all, Stacy's being nice. We all kicked ass. And having the board there was incredible, and they couldn't pass it with everybody there. And so if we have to go in front of the City Council on the night of July 3rd, we'll need you there again. And we'll send out information about that. That is the actual City Council meeting. We were in front of the Zoning Review Board to deny the motion for banning self-storage in the Beltline. So we got through the first obstacle, and we just have one more to go. But
and nobody else everybody else's positions were approved. We were the only one that got them to reverse and actually not go with the staff's recommendation. So
there's about 6 or 7 moratoriums around the country right now, and we're the only one to have defeated it.
What was that?
The original reason is they don't like us.
They don't know why.
And they consider it a proliferation of self-storage properties that don't meet the basically the beautification requirements of the Beltline. There's a lot of elements. John's very familiar with it in terms of the elements, but it's a very weak argument. It's very arbitrary in our opinion, and we'll continue to fight it. And if you hear of any things in your own jurisdiction, you want to talk about Sandy Springs?
Yeah, so we're looking into one in Sandy Springs right now as well. Scott and I have the proposal, and we'll be reviewing that at the board meeting today. But if you're running into anything or hear anything about a ban in your neighborhood, your jurisdiction, please reach out. That's what we're all here for, to help all other owners and investors in this great industry. A lot of it, people will know, I've seen this a lot in just having to educate municipalities, because they picture self-storage as just these drive-up buildings that are not as attractive.
Driveway.
Right, you know, they're not as attractive as the ones we have here in our city and the ones that are being built. So one of the things this would have banned was actually renovating existing facilities. So that also helped, because that would mean any of these older facilities on the Beltline would always stay old and grungy looking or whatever, not really attractive, but they would remain because there were no other storage facilities for people to rent out. So again, kudos to the association here. I think we really pulled together in a very short amount of time. So again, if anybody else comes up with any bans or restrictions in your own markets, just reach out to Samantha, myself, Scott. We definitely will get on it. All right. So now, with all those new people that are here for the first time, you can see how great this association is and how we all join together. So I'm going to go around the tables and just welcome all the new people, if they don't mind just standing up, introducing themselves, and hopefully by the end of this meeting we'll convince you that you should become a member as well. So how about back here at this table? Anyone here for the first time? In the back.
All right, I'll go first. Thank you for having me. I'm Kevin Center. I'm the owner of Postnet Buckhead. We are a printing company. We specialize in working with small and mid-sized businesses, brochures, flyers, postcards, business cards, things of that nature. And look forward to meeting you.
Great. Thanks for attending. How about... I know you. Raj, you've been here before. Wait a minute.
Raj Chef, Boardwalk Development Group. I've actually got two folks that I brought who are new to the organization, so I'll let them stand up and introduce themselves.
Thank you, Raj.
I'm Megan Jones. I'm interning with Raj this summer. I just finished my master's at ETA in accounting, and so I'm here to see what he'll teach me.
Great.
Hello, I'm Nathan, and I'm his property manager at Boardwalk Storage.
Glad you could attend. Okay, next table.
I'm Gene Edwards from Lake Oconee, Greensboro, Georgia, and this is our first meeting. My wife is with me, Barbara Edwards, and my daughter, Lisa Slocum.
Well, welcome. I'm glad you guys could make the
We've
trip.
been in business for 8 years now. This is the second time we've been here.
Well, welcome. Thanks for driving into the big city of Atlanta. I know traffic can be an issue here, so I know, no one else is.
No traffic in this town.
So, which is why we're having regional meetings more often now, and I'll go over the next ones after we finish up here. The table here?
Yes, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Stark. Why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
I'm Billy Stark with Stream Realty Partners. We are an investor and developer of office, industrial, and retail properties trying to get self-storage.
Great, welcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Chris Gleason, Peachtree Industrial Self-Storage. We've got a little mom and pop. I was brought in to see if we can increase the revenues and lower the auctions.
Oh, you've come to the right place. There's definitely people here who can help you.
Yes, hi, I'm Tanya Ruttenberg. I'm a commercial loan officer with LGE Community Credit Union. So I'm a friend of David and I've done deals with him in the past. I've been here before. Right, I've been here before, but thank you for having me again.
Glad you came back, Tanya. How about the back table? Are we good? You can stand up.
My name is Michelle Tiller. I'm with Covington Storage in Covington, Georgia. Also a regional trainer for Absolute Storage Management.
Great, welcome. Well, thank you all for attending. So, moving on to the next meetings, as I said, regional meetings is what we've really tried to focus on this year. And our next one is going to be in Augusta. And Michael Morrison will be speaking there about valuations. I forget Michael's name.
Increasing revenue, decreasing expenses, and long-term, short-term market trends.
Okay, so this will be easier for people out at Lake Oconee maybe to be attending, and everybody that's not wanting to travel into the city of Atlanta. So please let other owners know about it if you're speaking to them, and I know we'll have a lot of marketing going out for it as well. The other big event we have is the Georgia Conference, and registration is now open. So that's going to be held October 1st to the 3rd, and that's again in Savannah, which we all had a great time at last year. So if you didn't attend, hopefully you will this year, and we'll have more information about that online, as well as in the Frontier. But registration is open, and there are discounts for early bird, so try and get registered as soon as you can. Then our next meeting will be in July, and Scott Zucker will be speaking, so be sure to register, because that always brings a full house.
You're all subpoenaed to attend.
And stay awake, because he does have a lot of good jokes, and if you don't laugh, he'll keep telling more. And then in August, you'll get to hear me even more than you are right now, because I'll be speaking about the annual rent survey for the state of Georgia and city of Atlanta. And then finally, today's speakers is Lonnie, who will be speaking about auctions, and Store Here is our sponsor, and I believe Tron is going to come up here and speak about Store Here. Oh, no. Oh, sorry.
Not really.
Okay, and I think I've covered everything, Samantha? Yeah. All right. So Tron, if you want to come up. Sure. Great.
You?
Try not to slide pictures on the.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. It's always great to come have lunch with my friends here in Atlanta and meet some new friends. That's always good. It's our pleasure to buy lunch today. It's always great when everyone else is buying, but we've taken our turn too, so that's good. And I'll tell you just a little bit about us. Some of you may have seen some of our stores in Georgia. We have, I think, 18 properties that we either own or manage in Georgia. I might have to turn it on, that's right. There you go. So you should see on the table in front of you some of my cards. Grab one and please use it. Contact me, that'd be great. Some of you may know me. I've been in the industry about 17 years, and lately I've been doing a lot of traveling for self-storage. I was just in Hong Kong at the Self-Storage Asia Association meeting. I did a keynote talk there on marketing, and it was fascinating to see a new market, a new area in self-storage, and they're really talking about the same kind of things we're talking about. Occupancy, revenue, things like that. And they're developing their self-storage association, and what you heard Stacy talking about from the meeting yesterday is just a small example of how powerful the associations can be, and that's really why we support any of the associations we can in the states we do business in. So I appreciate you guys for that. If you go to our website, you'll see all the places we do business. We're in, I think, 12 states now. I think our portfolio is up to 43 properties, with most of those owned in a variety of ownership groups, and then a growing group of managed properties. What we do is fairly simple. We're a great partner for owners. We have a third-party management company that helps owners really get a hold of their property and grow revenues and grow value. We have our own call center. That's our proprietary system, our own agents working for us. That's a huge, big piece of secret sauce that helps us run the properties and also really boost conversion rates. We do consulting work with people on a variety of subjects, from development to HR to marketing to call center work, all that sort of good stuff. We also are always looking to buy properties. We're active buyers now. We think it's still a good time to be a buyer, and we're hoping it's a good time to be a seller as well. We're always expanding and contracting our portfolio, and we're looking for conversion opportunities as well around the country. So lots of different ways we could all work together. And really our why is pretty simple. We're really passionate about self-storage because we've seen the kind of wealth it's been able to create for entrepreneurs and small business people, and that's really exciting to be a part of. It's also really exciting to be a part of a group of people that really cooperate well together and work well together. And it's very satisfying to see how our client relationships turn into long-term business relationships. So these are the reasons that we keep working on it from an emotional level. From a business level, we love to see how we can diversify our company by having a wide range of different investments and services that we offer to people. And feels good in the morning when you wake up knowing these things are happening, for sure. Some of you may know our managing partners, James Hanrahan, Ryan Rogers, and Chris Weber. I think between them, they've got about 65 years of self-storage experience, and have probably worked on probably 500-600 properties from all angles of development, rehab, buy, sell, manage. So nice depth of experience to work with. And so I have a simple job for you. Make sure I have your email address so I can keep you up to date on things we're doing. Some of you are probably getting notes from me already. I'd also like you to send me your store information if you want us to take a quick peek at your store and give you some ideas as to what we might be able to do to help move that along. And if you'd like to talk further about setting up an engagement where we could manage your property or help you on the call center side, or even perhaps talk about an acquisition, we'd be glad to help you with that. So with that, I'd be glad to turn everything over to our speaker today. And I think you're going to get a lot out of this today. Auctions are always a big part of what we talk about. And it's been really exciting to see what Lonnie Bickford and his group have been able to do in building up their online auction system. And we'll go ahead and turn things over to Lonnie. And hopefully you guys will get some great knowledge to take home with you too. So thanks for having me, and enjoy.
Thank you, Tron. Hello. I'll just stand behind
You
here.
can stand wherever. You just run around.
I will. Hi, my name is Lonnie Bickford. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Flew in this morning from San Antonio, I think, and have to be in Austin tomorrow for the Texas Self-Storage Association meeting. Do a lot of these gatherings these days, and good to see the GASA group growing. I know y'all work real hard on growth, and I think you're probably more active in targeting that than most of the associations I know in Louisiana. We don't really recruit as good as some of the board members here do. I've been an owner for 20 years in storage. I started out in a little small store out in the country and ended up building multi-story climates once I did the math on that deal. And have, for the previous 19 years, done my own auctions on site as the owner. Had an auctioneer for about a year and a half. Didn't like the way that went, so kind of brought everything in-house. It's terribly neat the way the forefathers of storage have set up these lien laws to where we can cure this bad debt situation without having to go through the courts and do evictions. That said, it's probably the #1 way. So the insurance folks say, Scott probably would agree, that store owners get sued for a wrongful sale. I know I talked to one family here today that had that happen once in their career, and we want to try to make sure that doesn't happen. I know your state association is really good about kind of painting the picture for what that timeline looks like. So if you're not familiar with that, I'm sure there's a, what do you call the booklet? The
lien law manual.
The lien law manual that GASA will provide for you guys. And follow that thing to the letter, and you're going to be okay with that. Get started here. Went the wrong way, I guess. Where's my IT girl? Samantha? Just because I have an online business don't mean I know anything about computer.
I'm so sorry.
I got too many gray hairs for that.
So sorry, we started at the end instead of the beginning.
Okay.
You're good to go now.
All right.
Hit that clicker one time, make sure.
Hit the clicker, yeah. Everything you wish you didn't have to know about auctions.
All right.
Okay. Well, first of all, we all would like to not have a sale. Unfortunately, I talk to about 3 out of 10 people when I'm out in an area like today. I got to fly back to Texas to do a meeting tomorrow. But normally after a meeting like this, I just go make some cold calls. And we're still running into about 3 out of 10 stores that will say, I don't have auctions. Most of those people probably don't come to these kind of meetings, so hopefully you're not part of that crew. But in Louisiana, some of you guys will recognize two of our more famous faces. This is what we could come up with for TV stars. Can you imagine what crawls out the swamp on auction day? It's a scary group. I know in Georgia that's probably not the case, but anyway. So, PhDs in marketing and reselling of merchandise. I gotta quit saying junk. It's not people's junk, it's their treasures. I think you talked about that today. Chaos. When I started looking at first how I did auctions 3 or 4 years ago, I started trying to evolve what we were doing and putting a process in place. Our auction scheduling was random. There was no set schedule of when we were going to have it and why we pulled the trigger. We tended to wait till we had 6 to 10 units. Auctioneers like to have 6, 10, 20 units to be able to auction to make it worth their while. The auctioneers like to have a caravan if you've got multiple stores, whether you go to the first store and you all get in your cars and you follow each other to the next store and the next. That's good for the auctioneers, but the bidder that buys 2 units at the first store very seldom makes it to the 3rd or 4th one on that day. So as a store owner, you're probably not getting that top dollar by following that method. I used to do that. I had 3 stores within an hour of each other, and we would start at the farthest one and work our way back into town. It didn't work real good, but that's how we did it for a long time. Some of you have seen the TV show, some of you may have seen that episode. In Louisiana, we don't have snow events. I don't think you guys have to fight that much here, but we do have rain, and we have things like Katrina. The weather can definitely impact an auction. So when you go through the scheduling of the auction, the sending of the letters, to running ads in the paper, and you look outside and it's raining buckets, you got to have an auction if that's how you're doing it. And with an on-site auction. As an owner, after 20 years, I done had enough of the crazies. My wife don't like it, but I'm probably a little bit more like him than the other guys on that show. He's not the nice guy. My wife's really nice. But when I tried online auctions a few years ago, it was like, wow. So no more of the craziness, no more of the confusion, all the trucks and the stuff that goes on auction day, 20 pickup trucks and trailers and coffee cups and maybe spit cups or whatever else might show up that day. So when we tried this, there was a couple things that it allowed me as an owner to do differently. This I actually learned from our friend with the hat. I talked to her a couple years ago, and she made a comment that it was like November, and they had just finished scheduling her auctions for the rest of the next year. And I thought, well, how can you do that? You don't know when you're going to need to have an auction. And we had a lengthy discussion on this. And I started doing we planned it out a quarter ahead. And if I can tell you one thing today, if you're not scheduling your auctions every month, it's the #1 thing you can do to lower the number of units you'll sell at the end of the year. That sounds counterintuitive, maybe. You're having more auctions but selling less units. We have a tool, and it's the threat of selling their stuff. That's the most motivating thing that can make people pay. And if you have this auction scheduled, I think it's 2 things happen. I think your manager is much more effective when he knows, hey, we're having this auction. If you don't pay, they're going to sell your stuff. I think they collect with more intensity, with sincerity, than the old, well, we may have an auction, or we're down to 1 or 2 units, so we're going to put it off another month. When those tenants get 2 and 3 and 4 months behind because you've put it off, now they owe you 4 months rent, and 4 months late fees, and 4 months, well, plus the auction fees, and the sending the letter fee and the ad fee for the newspaper, however you set up your auction fees. So the #1 thing I encourage all you guys to do is to schedule them out. If you're a first of the month prorate type move-in facility, and you say, okay, when you're 45 days, 35 days late, whatever your company policy is, that you're going to pull the trigger, put them in the auction status, and send those units to auction. Make a policy out of that. Quit the random way that we've sometimes done this through the past, and have a process in place. You can write it on a sheet of paper where your managers on one sheet can understand this is our company policy. Now for the stores that do anniversary date move-ins, I'm still one of those guys. I know a lot of folks have gone to prorated to the first of the month. It's not quite as clean as say, you know, on the 6th of the month we're going to evaluate and send our letters. So we just picked for us from the 15th through about the 18th or 19th. We sometime in that frame we sit down and look at our collections reports. We see who's passed. For my company, it's 45 days late. Everybody's kind of got their own formula. Some of them will let them go 60. Had an auction last week. Half the people were over a year late. That's not a best practice. You know, there's a lot of discussion on what's the best way to get the highest recovery rates online or live. Well, you can't get any kind of recovery rate when they owe you a year's worth of rent. So the best way to get a good recovery rate is to schedule your auction. That's again, the biggest thing you guys can do. We get asked a lot, you know, what's best for my facility, whether it's an online auction or a live auction now that online is starting to get some traction. I'll say there's a certain kind of unit that doesn't always perform as well online, and that's I got a mic in my hand. It's a unit that's so full that you can't take pictures of anything because it's a wall of boxes. Sometimes when the bidders are there, if you had enough of them, if you have enough of them that are willing to roll the dice on what's in a box or a tote, they may bid higher on that particular unit because they can see that it's full from the front to the back, and a camera just can't really tell that story. That said, we had an auction 2 or 3 months ago in Carolina. It was a 10 by 30 with 2 doors, one on each side. And the pictures, the manager took 6 or 7 pictures, and it was Rubbermaid totes from the floor to the ceiling, all the way to the front to the back. And it was Monster Storage, I believe. So we started calling some of their other locations 100 miles, 150 miles away, and asking their managers, do you have a tote buyer, a box buyer? Because all these buyers, we kind of divide them up in interviewing them and trying to figure out things they want. There's guys that like furniture, and there's guys that want nothing to do with furniture. And then there's these guys that like to buy boxes, and they really like uniform, the same kind of boxes that people go buy versus a grocery store thing. But they like the totes because they figure if you pay $8 and they're all the same color, so you went to Lowe's that day and you wiped it out and bought 20 of these things, you care enough for your stuff to put it in something nice. You get certain kind of guys that like those kind of units. A live auction, if you got 2 of those guys there, well, they can have a real auction. If it's just one, he's going to get it for pretty cheap. Because a lot of people, and I tell everybody, don't bid on something you don't see. Don't hope that the TV is in the box. And, you know, for whatever reason, people store a lot of boxes. I'm sure you guys have seen that. But the online auctions, I don't know, 5 years ago, started kind of showing up. I know I talked to the Battles folks in Vegas and told them it was crazy, it would never work. So I'm not a really innovator of really much anything. I also said multi-story climate would never ever work. No one would ever push a cart and have their stuff on there. I own one of those, but I sure didn't invent it. I definitely didn't invent online auctions. And I put just some of the logos here, some of the companies. I guess, you know, as much as they're probably not here today, the Q Smart Extra Space folks, you know, we tend to compete against those REITs as family-owned type businesses. But those guys saw some of the benefit early on of being able to have an online auction. And I'll get into what some of those benefits are. But, you know, technology curve, you know, you have early innovators, the early adopters, the guys that go stand in line at the Apple store so they can be the first ones to get the new phone. I'm not doing that. I want somebody else to get the kinks out, and if enough of people think it works good, then I may end up getting something. The early majority is in the adoption of technology curve is, I think, where we're at now. A lot of these companies that we grabbed some logos of some of the folks that we work with, and some that we know are starting to move in that direction or have fully moved in that direction. 2 years ago, a lot of those folks hadn't done any online auctions, or maybe had 1 or 2 experiences that wasn't what they wanted, but you're starting to see the industry really move in that direction. And you know, for all the lien law updates, you know, again, these 2 guys right here, and I guess PS might have been involved with funding some of that lien law updates, but you know, the big guys kind of paved our way to let some of these changes happen, and now the rest of us are kind of getting to follow. You know, I had a slide one time. I was in Missouri the day after the ISS show, and my team that does these things, sometimes they just throw a new slide in there on me, and I'll hit the button. It's like, wow, what's this? And it had a covered wagon. And I was trying to think, what did we talk about with a covered wagon? And it was talking about this early adopters, and we were leaving from there and then we going to California. And I was bringing my wife to the Napa, California show. And I thought, if I had to get my wife and get in a covered wagon and leave from Louisiana, there's no way both of us would make it to California. Maybe not either one of us, but no way both. Thank God for Delta. Sometimes. Anyways. So online auctions, we can talk a little bit about how this works. When I get asked how's it work, it's a whole lot like the other auctions. I mean, you still have to follow the same legal process, the same timelines. Are you guys here, Ann, Scott, doing the verified letter, not just the certified, or, okay. For some of the stores, if you hadn't seen it's Postal Service Form 3817. It's a white piece of paper instead of a green. Costs $1.30 instead of $6. So this is part of y'all's new lien law, that you send this piece of mail. Also, this piece of mail will forward to the tenant's new address, where certified mail will only go to the address it's sent to and return back if there's no one there. So for most of the legislative efforts, it's been pretty easy to get this pushed through. Yeah, we get to save $5, but it also, I think, has a better chance of getting to that person. And a lot of people run from the green mail anyway. But that whole part of cutting the locks, sending the letters, all that's exactly the same whether it's online or a live auction. How does it work? I think most all online companies will let you set your own rules. So you say, well, how long do they have to come get the stuff? Well, it's your store, you pick. I didn't know this. My bidders considered me the storage Nazi. I gave them 24 hours. If they bought 5, 10 by 20s, I didn't care. You had 24 hours, you had to get off my property. I treated my bidders like they were second class folks. Then I started looking at a couple of them. They spend more with my company than my best tenant does. I mean, they got 2 or 3 guys that buy tons of stuff. So we've switched to where we go 72 hours to clean out the unit. I think a lot of companies in several different platforms seem to kind of have their customers, have the store owners set that up. Most everybody has no dumpster privileges. Again, it's your store, you get to choose. I'll tell you, if you give the bidders, if you put in your notes they have access to use the dumpster, they'll pay a little bit more maybe because they don't have to haul stuff to the trash, but most of us, I don't think, will choose to do that. We suggest a cleaning deposit when the bidders show up. Get a $100 deposit or $50 deposit. If it's a small unit, you decide as your rules, and unlock the unit. When they clean the unit out, you give them their deposit back. That kind of ensures you don't get left some presence in that unit. And this is something that I think all of us, well, no, not everybody. I like to procrastinate certain things. Some other people like to procrastinate certain things. Store managers seem to like to procrastinate doing auction paperwork. Online, they have to get the pictures posted on the website. This is something that when we started up, and I hear it still goes on, when someone will ask an auction vendor, well, when do you have to post the pictures? Well, the website company is going to want to have as much time as possible to be able to market it. But the answer to that question is that the ad should be on, the picture should be on the site before the first newspaper ad hits. Because when you tell those bidders who see the ad in the paper, go to the site, see the pictures of our stuff, the treasures that were found in these units, you want those units, the pictures to be there. If that manager waits and puts them up 4 or 5 days after the ad, but those bidders looked at the ad and came and didn't find it, they're going to assume that those tenants have paid their rent. I mean, we all know that, you know, depending on your store and how fast you start the process, it's going to be from 30 to 70% of the units that go to auction end up getting paid off before the sale. It just kind of depends on how fast you get your letters out and your demographics of that location. But get your newspaper, get your pictures up before the newspaper ad. That's another big thing. If you're going to do the online, that's a big part of it. You got to get them up anyway, so get them up in time. I like to talk about just, we all use the internet. Most of us probably have our software. It's some version of a cloud-based software. I know for me, when I made that switch from a desktop version where I had a little disk from SiteLink, and I'd have to call my manager and say, will you fax me a management summary? And I had to get to a fax machine to see the management summary. And I could go now to my deer stand and watch that management summary happen all day long. I get to hunt a whole lot more. The internet's changed the way we market. We're not on Yellow Pages so much anymore. Probably some of you have no presence in the Yellow Pages. I cut mine all the way out. I couldn't compete with the big guys anyway, so I just saved that money. But Facebook, Google, Yahoo, Bing, there's things with Craigslist you can do to market your auctions in certain areas. There's a whole lot of bidders that have never showed up at an auction that just don't want to come. A lot of ladies, we're selling a tremendous amount of units right now to women in the 28 to 40 year old range that like to fix up furniture and like to do resales on Let Go and on Facebook, buy, sell, trade. But they don't want to go to auction day with all these scared guys in pickup trucks. But we're selling a lot of furniture units now to first-time auction buyers. And I think, a little piece of commentary, as the message from the attorneys in the industry, as the message comes out more and more, you got to have a legal auction. And this is an easy way to have an auction with just 1 or 2 units. You don't have to wait up if you have 10. There's going to be more available product. So it's a supply-demand thing that I'm observing, that you better go find some new buyers, because the old buyers can only sell so much junk in a week. Some of them actually max out. Some of them, I have a lady that'll buy 20 units a week. I don't see how she processes that much treasures, not junk, but she does. But the internet is bringing us to those people, and that's, I think, something that's going to help us all in the industry. I'll say it's all about your pictures. If you guys, if the managers are going to use a phone, we all tend to hold our phones up like this and take pictures because the button's at the bottom, and that's what we do. But a camera always looked like that. All software, everything that happens with photographs is going to be treated preferably when it's held horizontal. So if you get your managers to hold the phone sideways, it's a little step, but it's a really big step when you look at the finished product on multiple different websites. You can go check out other vendors. I know our software handles a horizontal picture a lot better. They just all tend to do that. So, and we ask for at least 7 pictures. If you got good stuff, give 20. We don't care. Few sites limit what you can do. I think there's a Canadian group that does videos. I know when we were building our platform, we asked the bidders what did they want, and the guys that buy a lot of units, like, I don't have time to look at 100 videos, 45 seconds each, where they can look through pictures as fast as they can hit the next button. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on a way that they can, because the managers say all the time, you don't need 7 pictures, you can see everything in 1 or 2. Take the pictures, it's what people are buying off of. So if you take one of the whole unit, break it up into quadrants, then start getting into stuff. This is in the same unit. If you go back to that first picture, you don't see any kind of detail because the sun's bright and the unit's dark. But if he steps up a little closer, all of a sudden there's an antique desk, there's a compressor, and all this is in the very front, but you couldn't see any of it from that first picture, and so forth. The internet. This is some units that went off. This was a first auction of a store that's kind of a crazy store. You never really hear about it. They're actually bulldozing this storage facility in Shreveport. They're tearing it down this month because a software company next door needed the land enough that they shut down the storage facility and bought the dirt. Wasn't a great store, but very seldom hear that. So they called us. They had a bunch of units they needed to sell. 419 views, and that's what putting this stuff on the internet. I mean, none of us would want 400 pickup trucks at our facility, but putting it on Facebook, using the power of the internet, these view counts can just be crazy. This unit was in Kathleen, Georgia. It was one unit. It was our first auction at that facility. Had 1,502 views. You ladies might know how to say that, Mishi or whatever. It's a bunch of purses. I wouldn't have gave them $100 for it, but they got 650 and a whole lot of lookers. Another example, that was a different Shreveport when it had 600 views and this is a regular unit. This is a $250 unit, non-climate 10 by 10 at a kind of a first generation store, but it's just putting it out there on the internet and letting the internet bring your bidders to you. Carolina, I know this unit, I don't know how many times I've opened the door and I can't look at that and as an auctioneer start saying, how about $100 bidder now, 2.5 and 3. It's more like, will somebody please give me $20 for this junk and clean it up? 6 people bid, at 300 views to get 6 people to bid. Or it might have been 2 people bidding 2 times each, I don't know. They got $60. To me, I'm prouder of that than the $600 for all the purses. And the manager's real happy because the manager don't get the $600, but they don't have to clean up that unit. So the manager really likes the lowball, the junk units getting bids. Show you one little thing. This unit right here, Southern Storage Center Group, it's one of their first auctions with us. This was the picture that initially showed up on the website. Went probably about 6 days, had a bid of about $250. It's mostly empty, what's it, 10 by 35. So, but looking in there, it's like, man, there's some stuff in there. So what we did, we changed the thumbnail
To airplane.
to just a picture of this rigid toolbox. Well, this is a construction type toolbox that's usually on job sites. And for the guys that know that thing's a couple $100 at Granger's, they're like, well, if that's in there, what else is in there? So when we went to that and you couldn't see all the emptiness, they started clicking to go into the unit. The view counts went from about 250 after 6 days to 1,500 views. And a unit ended up selling for $2,200 because enough guys saw 3 of these, they saw all these speakers, they saw these probably empty TV boxes, and what happened, a guy installed security systems, and the business they went under. The technician, we were kind of surprised he didn't try to buy it, but he didn't bid, because he knew what was in all this stuff, but there was tools in it. The guy bought it, paid $2,200, he was happy as could be, but it was changing that thumbnail from that to that. And on most of the sites, your manager, when they take those pictures, he has the ability to pick that first picture. For our company, we go behind, and our team of customer service people will go and kind of adjust which one's the thumbnail. But it's really, really all about getting those bidders as much information as you can from the pictures. And they're going to sit there. I wish I had the ability to go into all the pictures that was in that unit. There was these little boxes in the back that you could barely see. But one of the guys, I talked to one of the guys that had bid on it, he bid it up real high. it was some kind of home entertainment, I don't know what you call it. If this was the TV, an actual piece of art would come down out the ceiling and block your TV, so your guests wouldn't come in your living room and see a TV, they would see the art. So it was a remote control thing, and it was still in the wrapper in this big giant crated box. And he's like, he Googled it, and that thing was supposedly worth $1,500 or whatever. But anyways, get the pictures, schedule your auctions, and guys, I've been an owner, yeah, I own this company, but after doing 20 years of standing out in the heat, and I know you guys get plenty of heat here, it's just the bidders, even though they complain at first about, you know, they have to pay more, because typically if it's a good unit, I feel like it's 2 to 3 times the typical bid price on a good unit. Junk is junk. Can't do magic with junk. Or not as valuable treasure. I gotta quit saying that. SSA told me I'd say that too much. But you know, we don't. You don't have to be the pioneers. You don't have to ride in a biplane. The guys that's come before us have kind of paved the way on this. I know one of the other vendors in this space when I started out, he was telling me how hard it was going to be for me to be able to get bidders on our site, and I'm thinking, well, I don't think so, because you've already trained them to bid online. So, you know, Jim had called and had discouraging words for me as I was starting out. But when we run an ad in their area, the bidders just know, hey, oh, it's an online auction, and they're you know, trained. If your town hasn't had one yet, as long as you got Facebook, and as long as you got the internet, it'll still work. And you know, if you have one, and you start out the first unit at your store with just some garbage bags full of clothes and one left shoe, you're probably not going to get $800 for it. You're not going to. But as a way to put a process into the auctions, a way to have like guidelines for your managers to follow, this tool allows us to have the auctions with 1 unit. We don't have to build up 20. It allows us to have it on any kind of weather day. For me, I just really think it's the next best practice that will be accepted throughout storage. I even think that in the next 14, 18 months, you'll see a real majority of people doing it this way. I'll do some questions. Scott's always way more fun with his auction question and answers. He was in Louisiana last year. And I guess he'll let me tell this. He can't stop me, I guess. No reflection on him. It was the Louisiana crowd that came out to buy you after about 30 minutes of just crazy questions of, like, it's my stuff anyway. Can I just keep the good stuff and sell the rest in the garage sales? Like, no, it's not your stuff. You own the store, but... And the questions just kept coming. And Scott just looked at the board members. We were sitting over here, and he says, anybody have any Jack Daniels? It was a rough bit of questions around auctions, but anybody have some questions about live or online, I'll take a shot at them.
So what are you doing on Facebook? You don't, are you using the marketplace?
We use marketplace. We use buy, sell, trade. We actually, at the times, will do actual paid ads. It took us a long time to learn their algorithms in a way that we were getting ads for a good while as low as 7 cents a click, which is dirt cheap for any kind of click ad you're going to get. They've kind of figured out how we got them down that low, and they brought us back up a little higher. So we're trying to adjust who we search to there. The store managers, you know, obviously you have a store page, put it on there. The marketplace, you know, it takes a little follow-up. A lot of calls will come in saying, I want to buy the couch. Well, no, you have to buy the whole unit. So you kind of have to do an educational thing. Sometimes if you post a picture and you're not following up, it doesn't carry a lot of weight. And in the marketplace, if you don't follow up, they'll nix you and not let you play in that world. Yes?
To explain that part, the bag one, however you say it, because I never owned one, when that went online, then that manager actually called me and said, hey, do you buy these things? And I said, no. Well, I told Stacy, I'm like, look at what this person has. Well, we took that and shared it on our personal pages, and then our friends who did the bag shared it on their personal pages, so it just got it way out there, and that's how it got bid up.
Yeah, when you have a good unit, furniture, appliances have a very specific group of guys that tend to like to play in the washer, dryer, and refrigerator world, and they don't bring a lot of money. Pianos, for whatever reason, it's tough to sell a piano. Nobody wants it. If a unit's got the giant old big TV that had the big back piece and you need like 9 Atlanta Falcons to carry it, it don't matter if you put gold in the front. Nobody wants to bid on that thing. Those and mattresses. God, if anybody can invent a way for store owners to get rid of old mattresses, that would be a great business. I just don't think there's going to be a way. But Facebook, is as good as how you work it. We've spent a lot of effort doing what we do with it, and it works really good for us. Yes, sir.
Lonnie, what's your fee, what's your take if I advertise units with you to be on an online auction?
I think 3 out of the 4 or 5 guys that are in it do about the same thing. We collect a 10% deposit on the unit from the bidder, and after he pays you the 90%, we keep that 10% as your payment to us. And that way, if the unit sells for $20, I don't have to invoice you a $2 invoice, and you don't have to write me a $2 check, because it costs more to have someone type that out. So we get our fee from that bidder. They come bring you cash, or if you take credit cards, it's your auction, you get to do what you want. They bring you that on auction day. I know Treasures does the same. I think self-storage does the same. The Canadians have a whole different business model, and that's why Donald Trump's going to build a wall up there, I think. Go ahead.
So wait. So that means that all that's done in advance, and on auction day at 1 o'clock, the bids are cut off at 12:59. Whoever's got the high shows up, or is it 2 hours before that, or what?
No, when the clock goes down to 0, that person's credit card is hit, the credit card goes through, you get an invoice, they get an invoice, they show up and get their stuff.
Within 72 hours?
Yeah. Or if you choose 24, it's your auction, you do what you want.
Got it.
Yeah, I think we started at 48 hours, and I think Miriam might have changed it to 72.
No, I think we bumped it, yeah. We really do see them, and we know this because of our marketing on Facebook. We will actively market 120 miles, 2-hour drive to a population. We have to do that in Texas because the guy told me in Texas, he said, man, I'll drive 100 miles to drink coffee with my neighbor. Because I'm out in Belton, and Bob Bambus is a bunch of Amy Addicts things, and they're out in the middle of nowhere.
Is there a cancellation fee that you charge us if we cancel?
Different companies have different ways. I'll be happy to talk to you about the way we do it. Most of them charge $20 or some type of subscription thing, or pay in advance for, because all that marketing is not free. So if you got one unit, and I do all this Facebook work, and your tenant pays the unit off, there's no way I can stay in business. Certain operators, more than 50% of their units pay. So we're like that little gerbil on the wheel. We run, and then the tenants pay and we don't get paid. So there is cancellation fees for most companies. Some of them do subscriptions where you get no cancellations, but you pay them monthly.
What's your policy on deleting personal items?
Come on.
What's your policy on deleting what's considered personal items?
Store policy. The auction's your auction, and that's something that Scott's probably answered a bunch of times. Personal effects, pictures, albums. Every store kind of does a different deal with that.
And you have a fee if you have to change date?
Do we?
Yeah.
No.
But the schedule is the most important part. If you pre-schedule, then it all starts going.
Yeah, changing date, you just got to worry about the lien side of that, the lien loss side of that. We don't really care. Go ahead.
Just in your general experience, had auctions that didn't make, and if that was because there weren't enough people, and if that's happened to you, what do you do with the stuff?
If it's a legal auction, you've had three, most states it's three, sometimes said unrelated, a commercial viable auction where you had three bidders, viewers. We count the views, why we count the views. There is one company that for some reason doesn't show view counts that I know about. And it sells for, it doesn't sell, you get no bids. Well, you have the right to throw it away, donate it, do whatever you want.
Okay, so it's just released after that.
And part of the reason, especially when it's presented to the legislators, either from the lobby team or from the folks working through the different associations. I've worked in 3 states now in helping with the lien law changes. When we talk about this fulfilling the spirit of the law, being a true public sale versus, I'm going to sell this unit Sunday afternoon about 9 o'clock, and you know, who's going to come to your store then and you sell the guy's four-wheeler and chainsaws and all this for $100 to your brother-in-law, well that's not a public sale. Or even in some of the small towns where it just got to where, you know, during storage wars, everybody got high attendance, and now it's kind of tapered back off. We've done a lot of surveys, and it's kind of going back to pre-storage world attendance on live auctions. Being online and having these high view counts, even a low view count might be 80. We probably average with anything decent in the unit. We tend to run up in the high 200s as an average. I think the courts would say you had a public auction, so that's kind of the point of that. But you can't get rid of the stuff if no one bids. Yes, sir?
What is the actual date of the end of the auction? When it's done online or the 72 hours after?
No, the end of the auction is when the clock goes to 0.
So does the owner of that unit have any rights after that moment?
Scott gets this one and I'll answer it, but he can correct me. If the tenant beats the bidder, even after it goes to 0, he usually says, and he always says, take the tenant's money, because you don't want a tenant sitting there with $500 in rent and cash, waving in front of you, and some guy comes rolling up with his truck and trailer. Now your bidder's going to be mad, but it happens to them quite often. That's why we see a lot of bidders show up really fast on good units because they want to make sure, you know, they get it. I have them sitting in the parking lot bidding from their phone, and we actually had to change the way our invoices were produced. We used to produce invoice at the end of the last unit for all of them, and now as soon as it goes to 0, we generate invoices because the bidders do come. But to answer your question, if the bidder isn't there before the tenant shows up, the tenant can win. He can keep his stuff. He can keep his stuff. So when the clock goes to 0, the auction's over. But until you get paid from the bidder or the tenant, you're still kind of in limbo on who gets to have it. If the bidder gets there first, we don't really talk about this in the stores, but a winner of an auction, he's got like some consumer protection laws that are very real for him. He can't get in trouble if he, in good faith, bid on an auction and bought something, and you and that tenant get into it later on. The bidder's clean. Yes, sir.
Well, I thought you said that the credit card went through as soon as it hit 0, so wouldn't that be the bidders at that point?
All the auction online companies take some form of a deposit on the unit. That's not the full payment.
Oh, okay.
Scott might answer that in more detail. Full payment or?
No, it's a deposit. You have to wait until the full payment.
Yeah, okay. It's the full payment that makes it finished. And we've been asked, especially in state north of here, they approached myself and Mr. Robert Sheedy with Storage Traders and said, you know, they had some owners that wanted us to take all the money. Well, my accounting department would need this many people, is if I had to collect money and then write checks, and here's your $10 unit, and here's your, you know, it just wouldn't make any sense. So, you know, the deposit is taken, but the full payment is made at the store.
You guys have a mobile app?
I have a bunch of millennials that want me to. And then we talk about what that would look like. No, I don't think anybody has an app right now. We've had lots and lots of discussions with the developers. You know, I felt like an app to get the pictures into the right files and into the right unit would be great. The bidders want it. The whole website, you know, is very dynamic. There's a whole lot of stuff happening on an auction website. There's pictures, like our pictures are hosted by Amazon. The countdown clock is at, you know, Denver. The backup clock is in Chicago. And to make an app, we feel like you'd almost need 6 or 7 apps, and we're not going there just yet.
But a lot of people use the website only on their phone. Yeah.
Yeah, probably 25 to 30% of our bidders do everything from a phone, which is shocking to me that they're looking at a 3-inch picture and bidding $500. I mean, go put it on a laptop or desktop to me, but that's what they do. Yes, sir.
Lonnie, I gotta ask again.
Okay.
Who puts up the deposit money? The buyer, the bidder, or the owner of the storage facility?
No, the bidder's credit card, when
He
he's
files
ready.
because he wants to be a valid bidder.
Yeah, when he's on file, so when the clock goes to 0,
You take his
when
deposit.
we take his deposit.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
We had a curious question.
Yes.
How many Georgia operators are using the white proof of mailing, and how many are still using the green card or certified?
I'm a green idiot.
You're a green?
We're
Oh my
still green
goodness.
idiots.
This is the first I've heard of it. We'll be
Yeah,
using
we
the
use the
verified
white.
from now on.
You're using-
Well, they both
Y'all use the white. Okay.
Is the green legal?
Well, yeah, green is legal way up here, but so is verified down here.
Okay.
So is email.
That's right.
Don't forget email.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Our
yeah.
post. Y'all use our post.
Yeah, our senator in Louisiana, we had one particular senator was adamant that if we did not send the email, if we had it on file, that we did not follow the rules, and it was not a legitimate auction. So it's always hard to get that to all the different stores and managers and to get that kind of information. And we even, I don't know if we settled, because one of them liked that the white one followed to the forwarding address, and there was a little brief discussion, but I don't think anything was settled on, was the green certified, was that, you know, actually still legal, because it didn't follow. I don't know.
Well, the green is the last known address in the system.
Yeah.
So if the tenant gets auctioned, he wants to complain later, that's his problem.
Yeah, the lease would
Based on the
cover
lease.
that. Yeah.
Online sales are legal in Georgia by statute. Don't forget that.
Online auctions are legal in Georgia by statute.
Very good.
Any more? Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Got one more. Yeah. The pictures. Uh-huh.
Do you still stand at the door, or do you enter?
I've heard him answer this one, so I'll take the liberties. You own the store. You have the right to step into the door. That's the TV show that says you can't. If, as an owner, I don't like my managers going root around, but I will tell them, you know, if there's a refrigerator right behind the refrigerator, it's a golf club set, you know, lean in there and take a picture of it. So you can't step into the unit. Even heard said that, you know, you roll up the door and there's a mattress blocking everything. If you'd like to pull the mattress just to the side, take your pictures, put the mattress back, take a picture showing that, hey, the mattress is part of it, you can haul that off too. You can do that also. He's shaking his head.
No, yeah, that's a yes.
Yes, yes. No, it comes up every time. I know you get it too. So it's a very good question. Because everybody thinks the TV show is the law. I mean, everybody thinks
God is the law.
Everybody but storage owners thinks the TV show's real too.
True. Is that your hand? I'm an auctioneer. You raise your hand, I'm going to call it to you. Right? Okay, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. A board meeting will be following this, and otherwise, we'll see you all in a month.
Harry Farm. I finance these things as well as all kinds of buildings. Let's talk. Yeah.
We're just trying to get into it, so.
Hey, what are you doing, bud? About 8 years ago. I have a partner, Don, pretty well cover every thing you want to find. Coffee.